Hi, everyone. Welcome to class today. We are going to be, excuse me, we're going to be building a mortgage amortization table. What that is, an amortization table, it's a lot to say. It shows your monthly payment every month for the duration of a loan, and it shows you how much of your payment is going to interest and how much is going to principal. So it kind of breaks the loan down for you. And we're going to build one today in Excel or in Sheets. Using spreadsheets is an important skill to have for finance and business. So we're going to help you work on those skills today. Awesome. So first of all, you'll find this document kind of in this form in Google Classroom. So go get it and get it open, and let's get started. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to build this huge amortization table here showing every monthly payment going down this way, and then some like conditional stuff. So this is the things that we need to put into it. And to get that working, let's go ahead and just start formatting some stuff. This is the heading of my table up here. And notice how this has two rows. We're going to actually go merge these two together. So this month right here is going to get merged. Find the merge cells button. If you can't find a button that I've described, you can just click on help and type the name of the button or the name of the feature there, and it'll show you, it'll bring that button up right there for you. So you can do merge there. And then highlight the principal one up and down and merge those. And I'm just going to go ahead and bold all of those because those are the headings to my table. And I think that's ready for now. We can play around with it. I might actually center these real quick and maybe even center those. All right. So now we have these other tables off here to the right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 different tables. This is the basic mortgage information table. This is my heading. So I'm going to merge these two cells together and I'm going to bold that real quick. And this is where I'm going to type in all my basic information. So how much am I borrow? What was the purchase price of the house I agreed to? How much money will I put down on the house? What's the APR that I was approved for? And how long of a loan am I going to try and take out? 30-year, 20-year, whatever it is. All right. This next table will give us some calculations. So I'm going to take this heading and I'm going to merge it and bold it. You can see it cut this off, and we'll deal with that later, making it big enough. Here it's going to calculate the loan amount. So we're going to figure out how much money we have to borrow. That we're going to have a calculation for the mortgage payment, the true cost of the loan, the total interest we'll pay, and the true cost of the house. And we'll talk more about what all those mean. The next table, I'm going to merge these first two together, and I'm going to bold those. Again, that's the heading. And this table is really going to focus on, hey, what if I make the choice to not just make the minimum payment every month, but to actually pay a little extra every month? So maybe every month I'm going to pay $50 extra. And that's where I can put extra monthly payment. I can put that number here. And then this table will show me, hey, how many months will that take off the loan, right? It's going to shorten my loan. How many months going to take off? And how much total interest will I save by doing that? So now I can start making decisions about how I spend my money based on their long-term consequences, which is kind of cool. And then this last one is a monthly payment breakdown. And basically, this is going to be like an abbreviated amortization table. This table over here is going to have 360 entries for each month. And here we'll break it down like by 5-month increments, and we'll see how that turns out. And this one has 3 columns in it. So we want to make sure we're highlighting those 3 columns or those 3 cells, merging them, and just hitting bold. And maybe I'm going to go back and I'm going to give some color to these 3 headings. Excuse me. And when you're deciding on fill colors, my advice is to use these colors that are in this sort of really washed out range. If you use anything, let's say I want to use a darker purple color that looked kind of cool to me, and I'm like, oh, I like this one. It's really bright. That may not be so bad to read on the screen, but when you print this on a piece of paper, that purple is going to turn to dark gray, and you're going to have a hard time reading that. So my advice to you is when you're using fill colors behind text to keep it in that row of sort of pastels. All right. So let's get after it. First thing we want to do is we want to add all of our months to our table over here. So this is month 1. And we want this to be month 2. And we could just type in 2 and go down and keep going down, adding a number each time until we get to 360. But that's a nuisance, and let's not do it that way. So instead, we're going to use a formula. So I'm going to say, hey, make this cell equal, and I want it to equal to this one, the one above it, plus 1. And I'm going to hit enter. So what that does is it takes whatever's in A3, so whatever's here, and it adds 1 to it. So for example, if I change the value in A3 to 7, row 4 turns to 8 because adding 1 to it. Now, you might be like, well, that's harder than just typing the number 2, but this is where the power comes in. I see this little blue square here at the bottom of the cell. If I grab it and drag it, it copies that formula down so that it's adding 1 to each previous cell. Excuse me. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get down to cell 360 something. I need to go a little bit past 360 because that is, I've got a few headings up there. Awesome. And the reason we're going to 360 is mortgages are oftentimes 30 years long, and 30 times 12 is 360. So I'm going to leave it just a few months past 360. It won't hurt anything to have that, and just head up back here to the top. Okay, so that table's kind of set up. So now let's start talking about purchase price. So this mortgage information table is where you're going to type in information about your loan. So let's say that we're taking out, that we're buying a house for, I don't know, $550,000. Man, that's a lot of money. Okay. First of all, I notice that it's not a dollar amount. So I'm going to click back on it and I'm going to choose dollar here. And for a dollar amount this large, I probably don't care. I'm not going to make a penny offer, right? I'm not going to say and 38 cents. So I'm just going to eliminate those decimal places by clicking on the decrease decimal places button. And then I need to decide how much of a down payment will I put down. Well, let's just say I'm going to put down, I don't know, $125,000 as my down payment. Again, I'm going to format that as a number. And again, I'm going to remove those decimals because I'm not going to put down a down payment that has pennies involved in it. All right, my APR, this is going to be a percent. So I'm going to go over here and format it as a percent. And I'm going to say 5.25 and hit enter. Length of the loan. And so this is going to be, I don't know, let's do a 30-year mortgage. And maybe over here on length of the loan, let's add in, I'm going to double click here and then add in YRS for years. Now we can see this is cut off. So I'm actually going to drag this column F over until I get it. I'm looking down here as well. Make sure that I get that column wide enough to fit all my stuff in it. And that looks good so far. And I noticed that this is cut off. This heading is still cut off. I'm going to drag G over until that heading is showing up. Okay. Yep, that looks great. Next thing I want to do now is start doing the calculation part. Actually, before we do that, let's come up here and put in a little note next to this one. And then just say, be sure there is a percent, or be sure to type. Let's do that. Be sure to type a percent next to the number. I don't know. So here's the concern is that when we type in some stuff like 0.9, it takes away that percent and it's reading this. It's going to use this now as like 90% because 0.9 is 90%. So if I want 0.9, I got to do 0.9% and hit enter. And now you see that percent symbol. So you need to always see a percent symbol here. So I'm going to do 5.25. And sometimes sheets will read it as a percent. Sometimes they'll read it as not. So it's just life. All right. So the loan amount. So if I agree to pay $550 for a house and I'm going to put down $125,000, that means I'm going to hand the seller a check for $125,000 out of my checking account. I'm not going to borrow this full $50. I'm going to borrow less than that. So I'm going to take this full $550 I agreed to pay. I'm going to subtract away the money I already paid the seller, and I'm going to hit enter. And that means I have $425,000 that I need to find in a loan. I need to borrow that money. So that's the calculation for loan amount. Mortgage payment. This calculation is complex. Let me show you what the formula looks like. It is this formula right here. So basically it's the payment is equal to the monthly interest rate times the amount you owe on the loan. PV is present value. All divided by 1 minus the quantity 1 plus the monthly interest rate to the negative number of months, number of payments, power. So if you're like, what? That formula is outside the scope of this class. So what I'll do is I'll help you build that real quick. So in here, we need to do equals. Whoops. In this mortgage payment cell, we need to do equals. And then we need to go to our monthly interest rate. Put an open parenthesis first. Monthly interest rate, or that's the APR, sorry, and divide it by 12 to get the monthly rate. Now, we don't need to convert this 5.25 to a decimal. By having a percent symbol here means that Sheets knows to do that conversion in the background. So right there's our monthly interest rate times, asterisk is times our loan amount. So not a purchase price, because we're not paying interest based on that. We're only borrowing this money. So I'm going to click on this cell. And again, I'm clicking on cells and not entering numbers because I want this formula to change when I change other values. And then a close parenthesis. That's the whole top of the fraction we just did. And now divided by, and it had all this weird stuff. So I'm going to put an open parentheses, 1 minus, another open parenthesis, 1 plus, and it was the monthly interest rate. So again, I'm going to click on the annual rate here, divide that by 12, close the parentheses. And this next part was to the power of the negative number of payments. So to do the power of, like squared or whatever, I'm going to put a caret. That tells it that, hey, whatever comes next is the power of. I'm going to open a parenthesis. And I'm going to say it is the negative, and number of payments is this number of years. And of course, there's 12 payments a year times 12. Close parentheses. And I think I need one more close parenthesis to make it work. Awesome. And then we're going to hit enter. And we should get a value of $2,347. Now, this is a number where there's going to be pennies, right? You're going to be expected to pay the pennies as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the increased decimal place one. I'm going to turn it on 2 places, and that's actually my mortgage payment. The bank will want its pennies. All right. If you did not get that number, go back and look at your formula. Maybe I'm going to expand in on it real quick just in case you need it. So that is the formula. Okay. So let me zoom back out to 100% and let's keep going. So true cost of the loan. So remember, the true cost of the loan is the money you borrowed and all the interest you paid on the loan. And that can sound like it's complicated to figure out, but it's really actually pretty easy. The other way to do it is just say, well, every month I'm going to write the bank a check for this amount. That's my monthly payment. And I'm going to do that for 30 years, 12 times a year. So I could just do here and just go equals, right? The payment I make times the number of years I make that payment times 12 months a year. I hit enter and look at that number. I borrowed $425,000, and over the course of 30 years, I'm going to pay back $844,000. Woo! And 66 cents, right? So that is huge. It's like almost double this amount. That's crazy. All right, so now the total interest that I paid. So it's like, okay, how do I figure that out? Well, here's the true cost that has everything I paid back, my principal, plus the interest. So I can just do this. I can say equals the true cost, the total cost of the loan, minus what I borrowed, the 425, my principal. When I do that, that's how much interest I paid. So you can see over the loan, I paid $419,000 in interest to borrow $425,000. Okay. All right. So, but this isn't this true cost is the true cost of the loan, not the house. Remember, the first thing we did when we bought this house is we gave that person $125,000. So really the true cost of the house is equal to the true cost of the loan plus the down payment I made. Like that's how much I paid for the house. So this $550,000 house that I agreed to buy is going to cost me over 30 years almost $1 million to pay off. That's intense. All right. So let's do some effects of extra monthly payments. So this first cell is where you're going to type in. So here I'm going to put type in how much you want to pay extra each month. Let's start this off with zero. Let's say that we're going to pay $0 extra each month. And again, here I'm going to turn on the dollar sign. And I can have or not have decimals. I don't know that I'm going to plan to pay 38 cents. Oh, I'll leave decimals on because maybe I will want to do that. Okay, so this, let's hold off on these two until we're done with the amortization table and this one as well. Yep. All right, let's stop the video there and we'll pick up in the next video right where we are.